Okay, let's try this again. Hopefully with some non-mic issues now. Alright. So, first of all, welcome back. And second of all, let's talk about, I need to give some shout-outs. First of all, Django and Savakim. Help me out, man, if you... with that, I appreciate the constructive criticism, and I especially want to thank a commenter from YouTube, Frieza2000 XTC. Yes. Sorry, I didn't have it memorized. But I'm very thankful for your comments. It was very helpful and just really good. Alright, so Volume 2. So, I've got less notes this time, but still quite a few. 3 pages this time, which is actually more like 2.5, but then again, who's counting? Alright. So, a couple of things occurred to me as I was working on the background stuff for Volume 2. Namely, I was mentioning the voice actors by their characters I recognize them as. To be honest with you, that's just kind of a thing that's been kind of a thing with me forever. I've always recognized voice actors by their characters they play, not so much by their names. So, I'll make some addendums because I just mentioned, like Glinda's voice actress and Oobleck's voice actress, namely Kathleen Zulch. I'm probably butchering that. Oy. And Joel Heyman, respectfully, with Port being Ryan Haywood, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, that's who I'm referring to. They were, of course, Rooster Teeth employees, so it was all in-house. We don't get any, big names and voice actors until we get to Volume 3, and that's a whole other can of worms that we'll get to in Volume 3, sadly. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that. I mean, there are a couple of exceptions, like, for example, Jessica Negri's famous cosplayer, who kind of got associated with them. And then, of course, Volume 3 was where we started seeing some recasts, unfortunately. Alright. So it's time to begin. So I'll just jump right in, because there's not much to talk about behind the scenes. Volume 1 was a decent success. They felt more confident that now that they had done their establishment, now was the time to roll with it, kind of thing. So it worked, and that worked. It really does work. So, Okay, so first off, let's start. I'm going to go through this in chronological order, and I'm probably going to do this for Volume 3 as well. Sorry, I know it would be better if I strung them together, but, I like going chronologically, what can I say? Although, for Volumes 4 and 5, I'm not going to be doing that. I'm actually going to be doing a lot more work with my notes, because if I do it, let's just say if I do it chronologically with Volumes 4 and 5, those videos are going to suck badly. And that's all I'm going to say about that for now. So starting off, we are introduced properly. They were in the post-credit scene of Volume 1, but this is where we're introduced to Mercury and Emerald. And the start of them being... I'm just going to come out and say it. Of them being Mary Sue's. Not so much here in Volume 2, but I know in Volume 3 I can picture the scene in my head. Yeah, they're pretty much Mary Sue's. They only lose because they either throw the fight or the script says so. which is Volume 3 and Volume 5 in a nutshell. See, the problem with Mercury and Emerald, and why I call them Mary Sue's, is they don't really lose, is the problem. They don't... What's the word I want? What am I looking for? What am I saying here? The issue here is they are, for all intents and purposes, just there to be a threat. But the problem is that their prowess seems to be over the top, right? For example, in this very volume, Mercury isn't really struggling against... Frickin' really? Sorry about that. For example, in this very volume, Mercury is not really struggling against Pyrrha. I mean, yeah, that's a mock battle, but at the same time, there's no struggle there, really. You know, of course, he's just testing her, but that's beside the point. So, they're looking for a guy named Tuscan, who is a former White Fang member who deserts, much like Blake, and sadly, this is not the first Faunus that is going to be one-shotted. And, yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that part, which does not help the whole Mercury and Emerald being Mary Sue's thing. Like, at all. So, yeah, bit of a design flaw there. Probably going to have to try and find a better camera angle, but then again, that's what I get for not having a proper studio, which is out of my control right now. Tuscan, I like that Tuscan recognizes them and knows what they're there for. The problem for me personally is, well, he's taken out too easily, right? He jumps up, he leaps at them, and then he gets booted by Mercury, and that's the end of the fight. Really? I mean, yeah, we'll learn Emerald's semblance is OP as hell, and Mercury's just, you know, again, you know, only loses when the script calls for it, and even then he doesn't. But we'll get to that in Volume 5. But at the same time, really? I don't know. Let's move on to better scenes, shall we? Like the introduction of Sun and Neptune. True, we get kind of we do get some introductory scenes with Team RWBY, but at the same time, there's really not much to say. It's pretty self-explanatory. RWBY just wants to spend the day with the last day before classes resume with her teammates, and yeah, she's got this big elaborate plan. It's a big binder, too. That's the weird part. But I'm more interested in focusing on Sun and Neptune. Now, we're introduced to Neptune, who is a member of Team Sun, here in Volume 2. And sadly, he's not going to do much, despite being voiced by Carrie Shawgrass, one of the showrunners. But what I like in that initial scene with Sun and Neptune is the Sun is basically talking about how he's excited to get Neptune to meet Team RWBY specifically, and and is chatting with him, and then he lets slip that Blake is a Faunus, and he's like, no, that's supposed to be a secret, and not I'm going to tell Scarlet behind Sun's back secret. I mean a secret, and Neptune's just like, yeah, I got it, man, I got it, and he's just like, I just need you to be cool here, man. Can you be cool? And Neptune just kind of does that cheeky little, dude, the glint, the shine on his teeth. Yeah, that's not old. That's not cliche as hell, is it? But at the same time, I like that because it kind of brings up an interesting point. Because Sun... See, my headcanon was always Sun didn't have any friends outside of Team Sun. There's two possibilities with that. Either he didn't have any friends while he was at Haven, or Blake is his first crush and he doesn't want to blow it. Both perspectives are very, very normal and very understandable for a teenager. The funny thing about that is that I think it works with both explanations. The explanation of he doesn't have very many friends, and the explanation of Blake is his first crush. The whole puppy love concept, as lore will oh so constantly refer to it as. One sec here, I need that to go away. There we go. My laptop is being irritating now that I've found a way to record from it. So, now that makes sense. That makes the most sense to me. And yes, I know some people are, like, Black Sun is the worst ship, blah, blah, blah. I'm not like that. I am a Black Sun shipper, but if you ship Bumblebee, that's your business, But yeah, I really enjoy Sun's character even here in Volume 2, despite him having way less to do. I mean, the final battle of the volume against all those Grimm, he literally does nothing but show up and wave his badge him and Neptune just show up and wave badges around. So what was the point of that? I'll tell you what the point was, to lead into a really, really dumb RWBY Chibi sketch. I'm sorry, I can't stand the Junior Detectives skits. If you like them, that's fine. Comedy is subjective. I can't stand them, personally. They just drive me up a wall. Next up is the food fight. Now, I gave my shoutouts earlier, but I am sorry. Frieza 2000 XTC. Yeah, the food fight kind of proves that they nerfed RWBY. There's no hand waving in it, in my opinion. Because, you see, rewatching the food fight just kind of cemented this idea for me. Because the food fight, first of all, RWBY does not have Crescent Rose in the food fight, obviously, right? Look at how much utility and just sheer raw ability she gets out of using her semblance alone. I mean, she basically single-handedly beats Team Juniper. Now, granted, that's not exactly a very, at the time of this, of this volume, that's not saying much, not really. But at the same time, it's just like, wow, that big crack on the wall. It's just like, yeah, no, they nerfed her because, she literally she won't be able to defeat the cannon fodder goons. Now, the White Fang are in full tilt cannon fodder goons. We'll get to those fucktards when we get to Volume 5. But, still, they're just foot soldiers. It's not like they're up against, she was up against the lieutenant with the chainsaw, who I refuse to believe is Yasuhashi, by the way. That's a theory that bounces around. Is Yasuhashi undercover? I don't agree with it. I'm just going to say it. But then again, I don't agree with many of Eruption Pain's theories. Okay. But at the same time, it's just kind of indicative of that whole mindset, because I get it, you don't want her to be too OP, which is hilarious in hindsight, but at the same time, I refer you back to my previous point in Volume 1, where by Volume 5, the nerfing will have made her so wonky and annoying that, she's as effective as a fucking Bulbasaur. To quote Unicorn of War again. Is that all I got for that? Yes, I do. So next up, when Glinda shows up to just be your naggy self, Ozpin just kind of comforts her and just says, "Let it go," you know, because and Glinda is just being irritated because they're supposed to be future defenders of the people, but Ozpin points out a very simple truth: they're kids right now, so let them play that part. Because it's not a role they'll have forever. In fact, they probably will be forced out of that role faster than Ozpin thinks. And considering what Volume 3 is, well, that kind of goes without saying, doesn't it? So then we cut back to the villains, and this is where we are properly introduced to Cinder. And where she starts acting like a complete moron. I didn't realize how dumb she was here, but the question I have for her is, why can't you let him in on minor details? Now, obviously, you don't want to detail every single freaking facet of the plan. That makes perfect sense. But leaving him completely in the dark? Well, I don't have to tell you what that makes you sound like, do I? Hey, Cinder. Yeah. Anyway. So, yeah, there's not much I can really say about that scene. I mean, the scene really does just kind of speak for itself, so let us move on. So after the opening title music, we get introduced to General James Ironwood. I'm going to be blunt with you. I am going to be a lot kinder to him here in Volume 2 than I'm going to be in Volumes 3 and 4. Because, well, let me put it to you this way. In my blunt opinion, Volumes 3 and 4 are where he firmly has grip over the idiot ball. And he really just loves just holding on to that thing like he's got a death grip or something. Like he needs to hold a death grip over it or something. Because, man, oh man, we're going to get to some things that he does that just make me want to frickin'... But, what have you. But here, he's a very polite, very charismatic, And then, of course, Ozpin points out the one thing I will criticize of him, but which I'm going to save my ranting about for Volume 3, because that's where it's a little more relevant and a little more egregious. And that, of course, is the frickin' fleet he brings with him. See, the fleet... I could understand bringing a small fleet. That's actually what Ozpin calls it. It's a small fleet. The problem is that he has multiple ships. He's bringing all of his, a whole bunch of his soldiers, and he's got multiple command ships. I think we'll see at least 6 or 7 of them. And knowing how panicky Ironwood is in these volumes. Yeah, I'm willing to bet he's got the entire fleet. Not to mention, we are actually thinking about it. It's actually in Volume 3 that he actually has the full mass, because that's when he is given full security detail, and when he's given that full security detail, full security clearance, his response is, "I'm going to bring my entire army because I'm a moron." Yes. I'm reminded of a recent video by SF Forgive me for referencing other people again, but when SF reviewed one of the Gundam movies, I cannot remember which one it was. I think it was the first one, but I could be wrong. He reviewed all 3, but when he reviewed the trilogy, he mentioned that Zion Well, they kind of had the mentality that, oh, we have a few ants crawling across our floor, burn our house down, because there's no kill like overkill. That's Ironwood's problem in a nutshell, because Ironwood doesn't understand what subtlety is, and boy howdy is it going to show in Volume 3. Which is sad, because he'll actually have a moment in Volume 4 where you think he's going to go back to being, where he's going to finally be intelligent, but then nope. Paranoia grips him again. So then, as he's leaving, it's a very short scene for his introduction. Then, Ironwood poses a question to Ozpin, who's basically questioning the fleet thing. And Ironwood looks at Ozpin and says, "Do you honestly believe your children can win a war?" And I like the subtlety with this, because Ozpin waits for Ironwood to leave, and then he responds, "I hope they never have to." Which, in my opinion, throws some more, douses some of the flames from the Ozpin is evil theory that I absolutely despise. So then we have Weiss showing genuine concern for Blake, because Blake seems to be distant. She's trying to avoid social encounters. I have nothing really to say about the library scene. It's there. It's a cool board game. They apparently made it into a real thing, or they're making it into a real thing. I can never remember. I honestly have not been looking into it, so it could be out and I don't know. But regardless, what I like about it is that she's already showing signs that Volume 1 Weiss is gone. Just out the door, gone. Credit where it's due. When Monty was told Weiss has the bitch dial cranked up too high, he turned it down. Unlike with frickin' George Lucas, who just says, "Oh, I'll just limit it as appearance, so I'll turn down the appearance dial." No, you don't need to turn down the appearance dial there, George. You need to turn down the crap factor with Jar Jar. Just turn down the goofiness. That's what needed to be turned down for Jar Jar. Much like Weiss's bitchiness needed to be turned down. I mean, it is still kind of there, but it's so much more muted in Volume 2. Like, the only time I ever really consider her to be an actual bitch, especially on the level of Volume 1, is when she rejects Jean. We'll get to him in a minute, because he pisses me right the fuck off. But we'll get there. But the funniest thing, Jean frickin' deserves to be treated like shit in this volume. He has, 3 good scenes, and they're all in Dance Dance Infiltration. 1 episode out of 12. We'll get to why 2 of my notes are episode titles later, but suffice it to say, for now, I actually do have a topic for that. So yeah, my very next note is Jean equals Ugh. The reason for that is, well, I'm actually going to skip ahead a little bit here, because did I rewrite that down from my rough draft? Sorry, give me 1 sec. Apparently I did combine it, so I actually decided to be smart. Cool. But yeah, let's just get my big complaint about Volume 2 out of the way. Jean arc. I mentioned how Jean follows a sort of a reverse Star Trek film syndrome for me. Well, from memory, really, it's only Volume 2 that he's a pain in the ass. And the reason is very simple. The reason is... how do I want to put this? He's a dumbass. He's a complete frickin' moron in Volume 2. Because Weiss has shown that she is not interested. She is completely non-interested. So what does Jean do? He keeps pushing it. 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 And he keeps frickin' pushing it. Forgive me for jumping ahead a little bit. But, I figured this and another note I have later tie into each other. So, you know what? I'm just going to jump ahead in my notes here. There's a reason I ship Arcos. Because, in my opinion, Arcos is what should have happened. Now, you could say, well, what happens in Volume 3, Blue Wolf? Yes, I know. But you could have done so much more with it. What you could have done is you could have made it a true tragic romance. Make it a doomed relationship. You know? Make this a Anakin Padme scenario. Right? You know, a doomed relationship that was, you know, well, with Anakin and Padme in Star Wars, it was more doomed for multiple reasons. But at the same time, that was still an example of a doomed relationship. Because of what was fated to happen, sadly. But at the same time, the problem is that Jean keeps going after somebody who does not want him, has no interest in him, and yet he just can't keep himself from crushing on her. Until she asks Neptune to the dance. That's the final trigger. Oh yeah, it's not the fact that you literally have someone who, in my opinion, is way more attractive, and she happens to be, I describe her as the love child between Urza Scarlet and Meg frickin' Nito. Badass female warrior with red hair, and her semblance is magnetism. She is master of magnet. Which does not, although that admittedly does not explain how the hell she can fling aluminum around but in the food fight, but again, I'm going to try not to be too nitpicky. Which is actually good, because I should save my nitpicky videos for volume 4 and 5. Although what's funny is I don't think that'll be too nitpicky, but we'll see. We'll see what my notes have to say about that. There's not much else for me to say, really. Because you could have done so much more with it, and all it's going to be is, for those who like Pyrrha, well, I'll warn you now, you're not going to like what happens in Volume 3. Just saying. So let's talk about the alternate outfits, shall we? I love them. I have to admit, I have always been a sucker for alternate costumes when it comes to characters in a series, right? Whether they change their look because it's now their time skip look, or or they just want to change up their wardrobe for, a certain number of episodes. I'm totally okay with that. I just wish some of those costumes would actually return, such as with these. I actually wish the alternate outfits would come back, because these are actually very stylish and very cool. I actually, especially Yang's. Yang's actually looks really cool, but that could just be me. Not much to say, just, Then Sun shows up, because they're making plans to go and figure out what the hell Torchwick and the White Fang are up to. And then Sun shows up, and he's like, hey, yeah, let's go hunt these guys down. And they're all shocked that he's there. And he wants to tag along. Now, they wanted to go do this as a team because, well, it's their choice to go do this. And all 4 of them are agreeing they want to go do this. they basically their stated reason is we don't want to get friends involved, and Sun's immediate response to that is, that's dumb. You should always get friends involved. That's why I brought Neptune. And they just poke out the window. Neptune's there. Sup? And then it's like, how did you even get up here? You're on that sill, that tiny sill, that tiny thing that he's supporting himself on. I have my ways, but I'd really like to come in now. Yeah, I can imagine, considering it's at least like 2 or 3 stories up. I don't think we ever get an establishing shot showing exactly how many stories up it is, but even 2 or 3 stories, that can cause some broken bones, just saying. And that is a PS4 being annoyingly loud, so please forgive that. Alright, so then they divide up the teams. Weiss has already taken an interest in Neptune, so she wants to pair off with Neptune. RWBY debunks that because it's like, no, we're going. You and me are going because Ice Flower. Dang it, RWBY. Not helping. Besides, you are going to have the perfect shipping fodder for you later. Anyway, of course, certain factors need to buzz the fuck off, but other than that, yeah, my next note is literally I ship Iceberg, because, yeah, I've never liked the John and Weiss ship, and I don't know, adding some eloquence and some actual, sophistication to Neptune, that sounds like a plan. So my next note is literally good riddance V1 Weiss. I've already explained that. They changed it up. But the reason I wrote it here was because this was the scene that cemented this upon one of my rewatches. This was the scene that I referenced last time, where I was like, keep in mind how Weiss reacts in Volume 1. That frickin' over-the-top bitchy tsundere response. Well, RWBY pokes fun at her because, the whole reason they went to the CCT tower, the communications tower, is because they needed to make a call to Atlas, specifically the Schnee Dust Company, in order to find out details about, how much damage to the company has been done and where. Now, so, and Weiss just points out, yeah, you just wanted to see the tower. We could have easily made this call from the library. Of course, then that would also not have allowed certain elements to factor in, so, hey, RWBY's desire to see cool things has paid off. So then RWBY does her little mocking. Ooh, look at me. My name's Weiss. I know facts. I'm rich. And this is where Weiss finally started to actually be a character I could like. No joke. No exaggeration. No joking. Her response is, don't be a pest. She says it a little more like you would expect Weiss to say that. But she doesn't go over the top like she did in Volume 1. The whole, how dare you, that shit. The stupidity that made her look like, it made her out to be a character that actually would say something as stupid as, the innocent never run. Sorry, I've already ranted about that. Letting it go. Here, she basically just ribs RWBY. It's mild teasing at best. That's all it is. And I have to applaud Weiss for that. Because it actually shows that she's starting to mature. Now, granted, we'll understand why it took an entire volume for her to get to this point. I mean, in volume 4. But at the same time, I still can't stand her in volume 1. Because it just feels like it's over the top, you know? It's just too over the top. Okay. So then Ruby sees Penny, rushes off to go figure out what the hell's going on with that. And then Weiss goes and makes her phone call. I like the animation on this because you can see the internal struggle for Weiss. You can see the pain in her face that she knows she's got to put on that smile. She can't let it show through. But on the inside, she really doesn't like that she has to contact her family company because, well, probably exactly what she was expecting to happen happened. The clerk was like, "Oh, Miss Schnee, would you like to speak to either your father or your sister?" Turns out she just wanted to get some info for a school project. Now, okay. Admittedly, they were saving it for Volume 3, but I think it would have been neat to have... It would have probably helped the situation, the Volume 3 behind-the-scenes situation, that, you know, if we had actually seen Winter here. But I'll get into that when I do my brief stint on the Shane Newville controversy. Yes, that is what I've been referring to, what I referred to last time. That is literally the first note from my Volume 1 notes, because I was going to get it out of the way in Volume 1, and then I decided no. I just did not want to talk about it. Probably a good idea that I did, because then I can do more research on it and actually give you a more cohesive version of things. Speaking of the CCT, let's talk about it now. I'm going to be blunt. The way the CCT towers work, according to the World of Remnant videos, is awful. It is literally a system that is just begging some villain to screw things up and start a war. Ozpin says in there that, I believe it's actually in the Volume 3 World of Remnants, so Ozpin is narrating it, in which he's like, I like the symbolism there. One voice is not louder than the others. I disagree. And the reason I disagree is you knock one of these things out, well, then you can't communicate with the other kingdoms, and without communication, well, let's just say in Volume 4 and 5, let's just say relations between, let's say, Atlas and Mistral will not exactly be very strong now, will they? I don't have much else to say there. I just think it's dumb. I think a better system would be that is if the CCT tower goes down in one kingdom, you can still contact the other 3 kingdoms, you just can't contact the one. So, for example, if say, the beacon tower falls, well, then Vale is cut off. You can't communicate with Vale. There's still, like, mini relay towers, so that within the kingdom's borders you can still contact people, but you just can't contact Vale from, say, Mistral. There's nothing to relay the signals to those small towers. Make sense? I think that would have been better than one goes down, the whole system goes down. Yeah, that's just a freaking excuse. It was for the stupidity of later volumes to happen, in my blunt opinion. So now let's talk about Penny. So, first of all, well, but actually, sidetrack before we get there. I have Ironwood's presentation as my next note. Because Ironwood basically is talking like yes, these machines will be awesome. These new robots, the Elysian Knights, are going to be amazing. Yeah. Considering what happens in Volume 3, not so amazing, Ironwood. Sorry. And then, of course, the White Fang, with the help of Roman and Cinder's, with the help of Roman and Cinder's faction, kinda, sorta, frickin' steal a bunch of their paladins. Yeah. Which apparently means, if you actually think about it, we have mecha in RWBY. Well, of course we do. Who the heck do you think is making this show? Anyways, to get back to our main robot girl, spoiler alert, by the way. Yeah, see, the funny thing is, from what I understand, there was some outrage about Penny being OP in Volume 1, because she was supposed to be revealed as a robot, and it would have made more sense to reveal her here as a robot in Volume 2, as opposed to in Volume 1. Now, she's based upon Pinocchio, but instead of her nose growing every time she lies, she hiccups every time she lies. Hiccups. The most irritating status condition you can have. And it's right in that scene. Like, RWBY's trying to get her to, like, when she stops the truck, is just trying to be like, Penny, tell me what's going on, please. I need to know. I want to help you. Why are you running? I mean, why are you running from those soldiers? How the hell did you stop that truck with your bare hands? And Penny's freaking out. She's just like, I want to talk about it. Everything's fine. She's hiccuping after every phrase she says. And then she just gets RWBY to reinforce that she is, in fact, her friend. And that's when she reveals her hands with the scraped off skin, revealing metal. RWBY, I'm not a real girl. And all RWBY can simply respond with is, oh. Of course, that's the funny part. RWBY takes it extremely well. And that's actually one thing that I know I should save it for Volume 3, because, spoiler alert, we're going to find out that the whole Penny's secret is kept from even Ozpin. My question here is, why? Why keep the secret from Ozpin? By the way, I'm more liberal with this, spoiling this, mostly because, well, it's a blink and you miss it moment. It's literally blink and you miss it. But, why keep it from Ozpin? Like, that's not helping your case, Ironwood. You have secret robot girls. You have what might as well be a fucking invasion fleet in the skies of Vale, or at least you will by the time Volume 3 rolls around. And on top of that, you end up taking over for Ozpin as in charge of security. Yeah, that's more than a little suspect. Why do I get the feeling that Ironwood was originally going to turn out to be one of Salem's agents, and that a certain someone was going to be a red herring? Excuse me. Yeah. That, God damn it. Well, actually, maybe that embarrassing little moment is fitting, because now I'm about to talk about the origin of the White Fang's masks. Yeah, I've already raged about Adam, and spoiler alert, we're going to learn in the Volume 6 character short that, yeah, he was the origin of the masks. Not much to say, really. It's all right there in black and white. Humanity wanted to make the faunest monsters, so they decided to don the face of the appearance of monsters. So then Blake and Sun go into the White Fang meeting, and I like that Roman is very subtle with his manipulations, because like the White Fang lieutenant is like, yes, this guy is going to help us out and he's going to be great, and they're all like looking at him like, what the freak is a human doing here? And Roman just kind of plays it off. He's like, yes, I know you all hate me. I'll be the first one to admit humanity is the worst. Case in point. Wait. I like that he uses himself as a martyr, and then he proceeds to give them another target to focus on, a common enemy. And that is smart to me, because that actually then gives them something else to focus on. Don't focus on that I'm a human. Focus on the fact that I'm a human that wants to kill other humans. So let's get on with it. Now, as I said, I don't think that's Roman's goal, but considering that Cinder's breathing down his neck, heck with her overrated flames, yeah. So then we get the Paladin fight. This is my favorite fight in the entire series. I love this fight. It is easily one of my favorite fight scenes of all time. It's just one of my favorites. What can I say? I don't really have much else to say. I mean, there's the attack names, which is actually my next note after Paladin fight, but even then, thinking about that, that's pretty self-explanatory when you think about it. I mean, Ladybug is, of course, Ruby and Blake. Ice Flowers, of course, Ruby and Weiss, as if you didn't know that already. Other times referred to as White Rose. There's Checkmate, also referred to as Monochrome. And then, of course, there's the big one. There's the two big ones, I should say, involving Yang. Bumblebee and Freezer Burn. By the way, thanks to the Menagerie arc, I am in the Freezer Burn camp. Come at me. Anyways, so then at the end of the fight, Neo shows up. Roman, of course, calls Weiss Ice Queen one last time. And that's it. The fight ends. Weiss makes a bad pun. And that's it. Oh, and Sun and Neptune are eating noodles because why the hell not? So now we get some Pyrrha scenes. I always like talking about those, don't I? Right. So Team Cardinal are cannon fodder. They've always been cannon fodder. Let's not even pretend they haven't been. And yeah, as I stated, Mercury wasn't really having any troubles because he chimes in, I want to fight Pyrrha, and Pyrrha's cool with it because, Pyrrha is Pyrrha. And then, he realizes his semblance because what happens is that she blocks a kick from him and then is able to manipulate his boots. I like that she only makes subtle adjustments, though. It's actually quite handy, because that actually helps to form an illusion that she makes about her opponents. She has this illusion of being invincible, of being untouchable. Cinder will literally refer to it as people think she's fated for greatness, when in reality, what she's really doing is taking fate into her own hands, which is how I prefer it. because, because that just makes sense, right? So then I've got a couple of Blake notes. Yeah, Blake pretty much after the Paladin fight starts going into a state of desperation, I want to call it, because she's not getting much sleep. She's getting more and more aggressive as time goes on, and Weiss will even comment that it's affecting her studies. Now, that's because all she cares about is stopping Torchwick. The problem is that obsession can kind of screw you over in so many ways. I mean, this is a cliche beyond cliches. I mean, for crying out loud. Rathacon, anybody? Yeah, this theme is old as dirt. So then they're planning to go to the dance that is being held that weekend. And, yeah, so this is where I think the scripting is a little wonky, to say the least, because I'm saying this wrong, because RWBY is one of those characters where I can understand where she would want Blake to go. Absolutely. She's her friend, she's her teammate, this, that, and the other thing. But why is it critical for Blake to show? I mean, I don't know. Now, it would make more sense if she meant for her. There would be no point for her, right? But, yeah. It's just kind of a weird little nitpick I have, admittedly. So then we get my why I ship Arcos, which I already talked about. And then, of course, Jean is like, it basically tells Pyrrha that if she doesn't get asked to the dance, he'll wear her dress. Spoiler alert, he keeps his word. So then we have the scene where Mercury is explaining about Pyrrha's semblance, and Mercury makes the offhanded comment that, oh, you could take her easy, Cinder. But then Cinder replies that it's not about overpowering the enemy, it's about taking away what power they have. Which just kind of puts things with a certain character in Volume 5 into perspective now, doesn't it? We'll talk about it at the end, because there's actually some Volume 5 spoilers that I'm going to talk about. I won't go too in depth into it, but let's just say, yeah, I'm gonna get a little bit of my ranting about a certain character from Volume 5 out of the way now, so that it doesn't bog down the Volume 5 video. Then we get an interesting point, just before, we get Yang's backstory. Which, it's down here. Yeah, okay. Yeah, and then, okay. Sorry. I was just checking my notes because I was like, wait, where's the note? And, yeah, it's there. So, Sun mentions that he grew up in Vacchio and moved to Mistral. That's actually kind of an interesting idea. I like that. I like that idea that he kind of has that perspective, that two-zone perspectives. I still say we should have seen more of Teen Sun in Volumes 4 and 5, but that's just me. There's not really much for me to say. It's just kind of an interesting tidbit, and it explains his attire. So, yeah. Okay, my next two notes are about Jean, are the scene where Jean is talking to Ren. Yang goes to get Blake, and then Jean and Ren have their conversation. Because he's complaining about Weiss, he wants advice, asking about him and Nora, and then Nora just is like, yeah, we're not together. And I'm just like, you should be. You should be. Sorry. So then Pyrrha shows up and basically tells Jean to just be himself. You know, the advice I gave back in Volume 1? That's what Pyrrha tells Jean here. But Nora's got a nice point, and kind of also kind of hints at the whole she's smarter than she looks thing. When she says, practice what you preach, Pyrrha. So now we get Yang's backstory. Now this is going to be this one's going to take some time to dissect, because Yang's backstory is very interesting. As a kid, she tries to get answers about why her mother left and carried young Ruby with her, which literally means had Crow not been there and lived up to his theme song, ooh boy, that would have changed things significantly, needless to say. Although there is one interesting topic. Ruby and Yang's dad, I have to imagine he was pissed at that. And I know some people associate, slap with automatically with child abuse. See, I'm more about the context. Being a drunken sociopath, like in Detroit Become Human, no. That's abuse. Jacques the Destroyer, that's abuse. Period. I don't care. That's abuse. Here, though, now we don't see any slapping or anything with Yang's dad, right? Which I suppose makes sense. Which is funny given who voices Tai Yang. Yeah, let's just say I have a joke to put on Raven later. Anyway. But I'm reminded of a scene, forgive me for the tangent, I'm reminded of a scene from the series Digimon Adventure. The first season of Digimon Digital, what we called here in North America, Digimon Digital Monsters. In the first season, spoiler alert for Digimon, there's a scene where Tai is explaining a backstory about how he almost got his sister killed. I won't go into too big of specifics, but yeah. The fact of the matter is that we actually see him get slapped. Now, we don't see the hand contact with his face, but we see a bruise on his cheek. I don't remember which side, but, he is holding his face because, he got slapped hard because his mother was pissed off at him. And rightly so, because at the time, his sister was kind of sick and was like 4 years old. Or like, some low-ranking age, right? Whew. Yeah, needless to say, that was a bad call on Ty's part. And, by the way, if you're thinking, oh, the dub doesn't show that, no. You see the bruise in the dub. You see the red spot on the dub. And they make it perfectly clear with a close-up of his mother holding her hand like this, as if she's swung already. So, they make it perfectly clear. He was slapped. Like I said, good reason. I have to imagine that was the same for Yang. Something tells me she got a good slap when she got home. Alright. So she convinces Blake to go to the dance, and Blake goes up to Sun, who's fiddling with his tie and being like, stupid neck trap. Ugh. And then Blake just comes up and says, I knew you'd look good in a tie. And Sun is just kind of genuinely like, oh, okay. Does this mean we're going together? And then Blake is just like, yeah, technically, but I've already got a dance lined up. So then Ozpin talks to RWBY, who really is not somebody for heels. She's more for boots and comics. Anyway, but I like Ozpin's advice to her. I actually wrote it down. You can't spend your entire life on the battlefield, even if you want to. I like that because the idea is that RWBY is more, she's more for, combat. She's more about being a huntress than she is about going to fancy balls and stuff, When she literally walks into the dance, she's basically stumbling, trying to get her footing, and she's just like, okay, can we seriously have a serious conversation about how Weiss fights in these things? It's called combat heels, RWBY. Ask Weiss to give you some. I'm sure she'll be okay with that. My next note is the first of two episode names, because I don't need my notes to talk about this and the other episode. My note is Dance Dance Infiltration, which is the name of the episode. So, Mercury and I will come in, it cuts to black, even in the movie, which is a little weird. And then the preceding scenes up until you see the Black Queen chess piece on the screen, at the end, and with the bells going off, the dong dong as the music's fading out. Well, I have to admit I just love this scene. So let's start with the Jean stuff. If we'll just go in order. So Jean is just looking at RWBY like, so you're here dateless too, huh? Yep. To the socially awkward. And then that's when RWBY reveals that apparently Neptune turned Weiss down because of a really goofy reason. Yeah. So, and then of course Jean's just all pissed off at that and is gonna go scold Neptune, and he's just like, hold my punch. RWBY takes it into her hand. Yes, I can actually do this. Takes it into her hand. Drinks from that one. Or actually, it's more like I'm doing it wrong for the visual aid, but you get the point. Drinks from his cup. And I actually watched it. It's from his cup. I actually rewound a scene to double check that, and I was just like, what the hell, RWBY? Anyway. So then he goes to confront Neptune, but then Pyrrha walks by, kind of looking sad. So he goes to try and comfort Pyrrha, and that's when it's found out that Pyrrha came alone. And the reason is actually very simple. She's a celebrity, and once you get to that point, well, yeah, people tend to put you on a pedestal, and you get separated from those that put you on that pedestal to begin with. And that's actually why she had an interest in Jean. Jean looked at her like she was just any other person. There was no fame, there was no glory behind it, there was no, I'm gonna try and get with a rich person. It was literally just, the standard flirting thing. Yeah. So then, then Neptune shows up right when Jean's about to be like, oh yeah, and then Jean just rips into him when he's like, oh, there's cute girls, and it's just like, do you even care about the people you're hitting on? And it's like, whoa, where's this coming from? And it's like, yeah, and then that's when Neptune is just like, yeah, I can't dance. It's like, wait, what? Yeah, I can't dance. That's why I rejected her. Oh, for crying out loud. No, just go and talk to her and be natural. She won't care. And it turns out he's right. Just be yourself. I've heard that's the way to go. To paraphrase Nora, practice what you preach, Jean, you fucking moron. So then he's just like, okay, everything's all good. Alright, so then that's when Jean goes and keeps his promise. He stated earlier in the volume that if Pyrrha didn't get to the dance, he would, of course, wear a dress. He kept that promise, saying that an Ark never goes back on his word. I want to learn more about the Ark family, honestly. Would be nice to know more. So then we get the awesome Juniper dance scene that, almost everybody knows about, that knows this series. Then Ruby spots Cinder making her infiltration to the CCT. And immediately goes to pursue. Because she's just like, what is that woman doing? And then when she sees the knockout guards, she immediately whips out her scroll and is like, oh, I need Crescent Rose. Told you those rocket lockers were cool. Gets Crescent Rose and goes into the tower. Then Ironwood exits the tower. And it exits this party, rather. Which Emerald warns Cinder about, because of course, that is smart. Don't get me wrong. And then Ruby manages to prevent Cinder from running for the moment. Ruby fights her. Does actually decently well considering this is Cinder we're talking about. And even, she's pretty good even without the full maiden powers, so there's that. But as soon as Ironwood shows up, she bolts. Which I suppose does make a lot of sense, because Ironwood is supposed to be a top-ranking huntsman, and he's a general, so combat is probably his forte. Not much else to say, because then the episode ends. So the next morning, Ironwood is livid with Ozpin, because it's just like, this proves my point! They were here! And of course, it's just like, yeah, we get it. And then it's like, well, what are we going to do about it? Then Ruby shows up. And I like that Ironwood just praises Ruby right there. Just being like, Ruby, I want you to know that what you did last night was exactly what being a huntress is all about. You recognized a threat, you took action, and you did the very best you could. Where the hell does this Ironwood go? Sorry. I'll stop harping about it until we get to volume 3. Because, yeah, so when Ruby lets slip to Ozpin about what they heard about I apologize for the clicking, but, yeah. She lets slip that, I don't know if you can hear that, honestly, but whatever. Anyways, so she lets slip that she knows about the base in the southeast. Okay. Which, I like that Ozpin cuts off Glinda when she's about to protest. I thought you said the intruder didn't say anything. And that gets cut off because, well, simply put, that doesn't matter. That wasn't the point of her saying that. And Ozpin recognizes that. Nice touch. I also... Actually, I kind of skipped over a note here, which was a small little just... I like a joke that she goes for, because just before she's praised, Ozpin asks, how are you feeling, Ruby? And then Ruby's just like, good. I mean, I'd be feeling better if my bad guy catching record wasn't 0 for 3. and then she just gets dead silence, and it's just like, okay, that's the tone we're going for. Got it. So then, Ironwood wants to send troops to the south, as many troops as he can send. Do I even need to explain to you why that's dumb? No? You're smart enough to figure that out? Cool. You should be in charge of the Elysian fleet. I'm kidding, by the way, but you gotta figure there's gotta be somebody more well equipped. But of course, Ozpin points out, when you prepare to go to war, are you really going to send the flag bearer first, or the scouts? And my note literally just says, scouts before flag bearer, because that's my opinion on the matter. So RWBY is kind of weirded out, being like, was that the right move? And then, of course, a package from home goes to cheer her up. Pulls out the package, chunks it out. Package starts moving. Okay. Boop. Swai. Okay, I'm just gonna be honest with you right out of the gate. I adore Swai. Swai is one of those characters that, yes, he's a dog, but he's much like, was it Einstein? The dog from Cowboy Bebop. I'm horrible with names. But yeah, the dog from Cowboy Bebop, who apparently was what Swai was inspired by. And I just love the idea of, a pet being a character. Which is interesting because we will actually see Oobleck smack Swai across, and he will become a flying fiery furball that destroys a paladin in basically one shot. I've got nothing. That's just awesome. It's stupid, but it's awesome. So I'm willing to forgive the stupid because it's awesome. Right? And of course, Weiss is the one that just immediately is just like, oh my god, it's precious. It's like, well, I guess Swai is helping my point. Fraser Burn for the win! Sorry. I'll stop. Okay, so then they go to the assembly for the pre-mission stuff, and Ozpin makes his unity speech, as I've called it, talking about how around 80 years ago, the Great War ended, and that it was a war not just about border disputes or who was allied with who or yada yada yada, none of that, but it was an attack on self-expression itself, which a lot of people were not going to tolerate, which was why the whole color naming scheme came into existence. I like that I like that touch because it actually gives you an in-lore reason of why all the characters' names remind you of colors, and why the team names are colors, right? It's a really nice touch, and I'm really happy they did that. So, then Team RWBY goes to try and get a search and destroy mission in the southeast. The one that they want, which is perfect, is locked. Which, that was Ozpin, because it's like, wait, the mission should only be the ones that are available to first years, so, That was Ozpin predicting. That was Ozpin predicting what Team RWBY would do. So, yeah. That's actually literally my note. Ozpin predicts RWBY's moves, Team RWBY's moves, is what I mean, and bends the rules so they can shout out Oobleck. Which is funny, because at first they're like, what? They're just kind of like wigged out by Dr. Oobleck? Yeah, they're not fans of teaming up with him, but that's actually a fallacy. Because we have another Zigbar on our hands. Oobleck acts like a moron, but he's actually pretty damn smart. We know now. I'm interested to know if you guys think that Oobleck, whether or not Oobleck is a part of Ozpin's inner circle, because I can see evidence to the contrary, but I can also see the evidence to the former, of him actually being one. And the reason I say that is, he doesn't even question when Blake mentions the base and the base thing that they're looking for. It's actually kind of a nice touch, and very nice and subtle in my opinion. So then Oobleck calls Ruby out on her bag. Hey, and what could you possibly have in there? So I pokes his head out. Now, remember how I said last time how there's certain cliches I can't stand seeing? Well, this was another one. I thought Oobleck was going to be one of these, you must follow the rules, and the rules must be followed, and no other thing. Even though that this is a frickin' dog that can help you track on a tracking mission. Which is Oobleck's point. I love that! Oh, I was like, perfect! And then Ruby had to be a goofball and ruin it. So now we get into the reasons why Team Ruby wanted to be huntresses. We already know Ruby's. She wanted to be a hero in the books. Oobleck starts with Yang, and Yang basically states that she's a thrill seeker. With no real sense of, and she will admit later when she elaborates it to her teammates that really what she meant was, yeah, she's a thrill seeker who's just letting the wind, letting the whims of the wind kind of carry her along. We get Weiss upholding her name. I'm on the last half a page of notes. Funny enough. Weiss wanting to uphold her name, mostly, it is true, but the problem is that she wants to change the Schnee Dust Company. Because Jacques the Destroyer. Yes, I'm going to keep calling him that for the time being. But at the same time, yeah, she puts it very bluntly. My father was not the start of our name, and I refuse to let him be the end of it. And then Blake is one of those people who has always just fought for what she's believed in. She believes that there's too much evil in the world and things need to change. But she's not sure how to bring that about. So she's going to try and do that. The problem is she's not really sure how, and the other problem is that, well, she recognizes that she's kind of a coward. Who lets her cowardice get the better of her later. Letting that go for now. Just keep it in the back of your mind for Volume 3. Just keep that note I made from last volume about the Lost Cause comment from Yang. Just keep that in the back of your mind for now. Blake also name drops Adam. I'm just going to mention it here because that's a point to keep in mind for Volume 5. And why I'll be wanting to smack Yang across the face. He's myself. Little less justified, admittedly, but still... So then we get a quick explanation about Mountain Glen. Basically because of the Ruby falling into a pit when she discovers the White Fang are actually there. Oobleck quickly gives us some info dump with his high-speed talking, explaining that the citizens of Mountain Glen tried to have one last-ditch effort before Mountain Glen was destroyed, so they decided to try to do it underground. The problem was that, unfortunately, one of the walls of the caves came crashing down, And that the wall that came crashing down had a subterranean Grim nest right behind it. Yeah, you can kind of see what happened there. So then RWBY encounters Roman. We get more evidence of RWBY being nerfed because she can't get away from these random goons. Torchwick, I can at least somewhat buy that she couldn't quite get away from him. But no, I'm sorry. She puts up a really pitiful display. I mean, I've seen better displays in some of the crappier. I have seen some of the crappy fights that Voyager has put up over in Star Trek Voyager, and even I think that this is more pathetic. So, let's talk about the White Fang's plan, shall we? Train car bombs. Really? You couldn't just plant bombs? You had to use the train cars? Seems like an awful lot of wasted material. Just saying. I guess it was because of the angle of the explosion or something, but I don't know. It's a little weird for me. Of course, that's opening up holes so that the Grim can follow the train. Because, yeah, let's get a mini Grim invasion. So then the girls try to get onto the train to try and deal with it. Weiss ends up fighting the lieutenant from earlier with a chainsaw. Now, by this point, obviously, she has her aura. Otherwise, that chainsaw kind of would do a lot more damage than it did. Just saying. And, so you have Roman taunting Blake, and then you have Neo, who mostly just dodges Yang and then kicks her ass. And then my final topic shows up. We'll talk about her after. So then Breach happens, and we get introduced to Team Coffee. Because they get to the end of the line, and they're now in Vale. The problem is that now the Grim are showing up and attacking and destroying buildings. Team Juniper come to help. Sun and Neptune show up to be useless. And I do like that Port and Oobleck, kind of team up in here, and Swy shows up because, of course. I do like that Jean actually defeats the Urson in this scene, though. In this finale, though. That's actually a nice touch, and one that sadly will piss me off in Volume 3, but I digress. And then, of course, Team Coffee completely wrecked the Grim. Now, like I said, the Grim being treated as cannon fodder does not bug me, okay? Because this is a story about schools that specifically train people to fight these creatures. So it makes sense that some of the top students, the ones that would respond immediately, I'm bad at snapping, sorry, would be the ones to curb stomp them. We will see students that will run away from when an actual Grim, full-fledged Grim invasion happens in Volume 3. So I can't really call it bad writing like some people seem to. Because it is, although in my firm opinion, that's just people not understanding it. So then Oobleck is captured. Ironwood tries to interrogate him with no success, because of course not. Now we come to the point, my second last note here is making. Damn it, Ironwood. So, Ironwood basically has convinced the Vale Council to let him be in charge of security for the Vital Festival. And they concur. Okay, fine. I guess that makes sense. Why did they let the invasion fleet happen, though? No, seriously, what the fuck? Whatever. Oh, and then there's the line of, you brought this on yourself. He made one mistake, dingbat. And plus, by the way, you're the dumbass who doesn't know what a fucking antivirus software is. But now I'm getting ahead of myself. That's for Volume 3. Because we'll learn why that's significant. Oh boy, I am growling through my teeth, and my next note is literally my last one. Okay. I'm pretty much done with Volume 2 as a whole, but I have a spoiler section for this one. I didn't in Volume 1 because there was really no need. There was not much to say there. Here, though, I want to at least alleviate some of the pressure off of my Volume 5 videos. So, let's talk about... So, if you care about spoilers, I'm going to give you a countdown from 5, and then I'm going to spoil the next 3 volumes. Okay? Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. So if you're still here, you obviously don't care about spoilers, or you're already caught up with RWBY. Let's talk about Raven. So, Raven's apparently original purpose was that she was going to interfere in the fall of Beacon and fight Team Juniper. I'm just gonna say it. That would have made her character worse, in my opinion. Because there's no reason for her to be any more of an antagonist than she already is. And yes, I am saying antagonist because she is one of the dumbest characters I have ever seen in frickin' Volume 5. But again, I'll save the ranting about that for then, but suffice it to say for now, I still want to know why the hell she stayed away for nearly 20 years. I still want to know why the hell she chose the frickin' Bronwyn tribe instead of her frickin' family, and why she's so stupid that she couldn't come up with a solution that would also not only defend her from Salem, but would also make sure, or that it would also ensure that she could keep her family safe. And I'm sorry, but you left them with huntsman parents. If you were really trying to keep Yang out of this life, well, to quote the Black Widow, you miraculously failed. Yeah, I have, like, no sympathy for Raven, if it's not obvious. So get ready for rants like that and more when we get to Volume 5 in a few videos. However, for now, I am done. I think. Let me just make a quick check of my notes here. I mentioned the voice actors. We went through all of that. I suppose, yeah, that's about it. Actually, I don't think I talked about Penny having a soul. You know what? We'll talk about that more in Volume 3. We'll talk about that there. I'll make a note of it for Volume 3. We'll do some cleanup in the next volume. But regardless, until then, let me know what you guys think. Let me know if I've improved at all. And, yeah, that's about it. So I will see you guys back here for Volume 3. One of, if not the most controversial and polarizing volumes of this series. I'll see you next time, guys. Until then, this is Blue Wolf Alex of the Lore Walkers, signing out. Have a good one.